Welcome to our webisode. My name is Rebecca Fenig, Project Coordinator for Iron Edge. Today on our panel, I'm joined by Mark Sowden, Vice President of Managed Services, and Jesse Yoho, Technical Lead. They combined have decades of IT industry experience, and I'm so excited to have them talking with me today. Mark holds a certification called ITIL, and Jesse has a Microsoft AZ-103 certification. I hold CompTIA certs as well as a PMP, and we'll talk about all of these and additional on our webisode today. So why get certifications in our industry? Mark, you and Jesse are both active in the hiring of new technicians and other employees here at Iron Edge. Will you tell us a little bit about the value certifications show for individuals who hold them?
Absolutely. Thanks, Rebecca. Certifications do a couple of things. One, they validate experience, right? They validate the hard work that a lot of technicians put in on a day-to-day basis. They prove that you know what you say you know, and there's value to that. Not only that, but achieving certifications can attribute to marketability for individuals. You know, the more of those technologies that you've touched and the tests that you've passed put employers at ease in a way. You know, it's like I said, to go back, it's the validation that you have taken the time, you've studied relentlessly, I'm sure, especially with some of these certs, and then passed the test. You know, and that's a key component of you know, I guess building that knowledge. So yeah, and Jesse, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. What I really like about it, especially whenever we're going through hiring new employees, is one, the effort it took for you to get it done, like what Mark said. The other things I like to do is that they give you a sense of where they stand as a technician as a whole. Also, depending on the levels of certifications you do have and the amount you have to. That's really a eye popper when it comes to just looking at resumes. It not saying I would just completely dismiss somebody who has no certs, but people who have certs are definitely moved to the top of the list in my mind of callback.
Jesse, not all of the employees in our industry have college degrees, do they?
They do not, and especially in our industry, it is a very cert-centric industry, where just having a college degree can get your foot in the door pretty well, but having that real world knowledge behind you that you get when you study and pass a cert can really put you over the hump, and not just getting hired, but being able to back that knowledge up in real life.
Fantastic. Here at Iron Edge, we put a premium on training and certifications. Mark, will you talk about that a little bit and the reasons why we value certs?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a big one for us, you know, and I can only speak on behalf of Iron Edge, but when we are talking to employees and we're evaluating employees and we're creating their growth path, certifications are a key component of that. You know, a lot of the things that our team members are learning are things that they can apply towards a certification. Right. And for us, you know, it's worth it for us to invest in our employees. So we'll pay for certification training, we'll pay for past tests, you know, and then not only that, but if an individual is going to be excuse me, putting in the effort to study and then get access to technologies while they're at the office to kind of extend and broaden their horizons, you know, we're gonna pay a premium for that. So every certification for Iron Edge Group, if somebody achieves it with us while they're employed with us, we give them an immediate raise, not a bonus, not anything like that. Like these are valuable pieces of paper, as it were, that like I said, really do validate a technician's abilities. Not only that, but there is a sense of you know, it's a good feeling to for somebody to put in all the effort and take a cert that they know is difficult and then complete it and then know that they're going to get to work on more exciting, interesting things, from a job satisfaction perspective, from compensation to what you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis is huge for us. We want our people, our team to be happy with what they're doing, and certifications play a big role in that.
Really a win-win situation for
Exactly.
employer and employee.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, absolutely. So when it comes to IT, we have industry leaders that offer a wide variety of certifications. Jesse, I'd mentioned earlier that you hold a Microsoft cert. Tell us about that.
Yes, I just recently got my AZ 104. It was the first time in a while I've taken a cert, actually. The one before that was a MCSA, which was 3 tests that I took for servers. But I noticed that they are moving toward new kinds of questions and stuff like that in the new Microsoft certifications. So that's something to look out for, is the ever-changing scope of the actual questions on the tests. And Microsoft is definitely one of those people who keep you on your toes on how to answer questions and how to have the knowledge saved in multiple ways in your, it's not just one way of doing things, it's the thought process behind you doing it. And that's really what they're looking for in those Microsoft certifications. Not that just, you don't know just the answers, that you knew how you got there.
Jesse, talk a little bit about your AZ 104. Was that a security cert? Was that an administration cert? What was
Understood. The AZ 104 is an administrative cert. It is a very broad cert, actually. It's the one you would take prior to becoming an engineer of Office 365 and Azure Active Directory. So it really goes over Office 365 items all the way to building and running Azure servers and the actual Azure landscape, not just Azure Active Directory, which it also covers, but it will also cover how to deploy servers inside of an Azure environment, how to set up an environment in Azure to prepare for your mostly migrations from an on-prem to a cloud, which is where everybody's moving to nowadays, is getting rid of the hardware side of it and really moving into a cloud environment because of the ease of use and the flexibility of what you can do with that up in the cloud.
Our industry certainly doesn't stay static. So you had mentioned that tests will change over time. There are also some certs that require renewal. Isn't that right, Mark?
Yeah, and that's a excuse me, that's a really important component of the IT field and certifications. You never just learn one thing. There's always going to be follow-up education, because the rate of growth in the IT field, as far as technologies that are coming out, it's an order of magnitude larger and more influx than a lot of other industries. Most Microsoft certs will have about, in some cases, or Cisco, things like that, they'll have about a year, and then you've got to renew. And a lot of that is already information you've covered, but there are some very key components in architecture or in the ways that things are done, or feature richness. Like, you'll see this in Office 365 certs and Azure certs. For anybody that's in the industry, it almost seems like every time you log into Azure, it's different. And the fun part is Microsoft isn't going to tell every single one of the hundreds of millions of people that use these systems on a technical level that these changes happen. So they rely on us to do our part to get those certifications and get the renewals so that we're up to speed on what they're doing.
So whether someone wants to break into the IT field, or if they've been working and just want validation and verification of what they know and what they're doing, there are entry-level certifications. What kind of certs are considered entry-level, and what type of things are they focused on? Mark?
Yeah, there are, I do want a bit of a, we'll call it an asterisk, but there are thousands of certifications that you can get out there. There really are. for us, when we take in an entry-level employee or an employee trying to break into the industry, we always key in on a few. Mostly it's going to be the CompTIA certs, right? Entry-level certs, CompTIA is a company that provides training, like we'll say very foundational training for a lot of different verticals. We look for, we'll say the A+ is a big one. A+ gives you that foundational training for just everyday computing tasks and understanding the hardware of a system, understanding very a little bit of the history of how a lot of technologies came out, and it's that foundation that is really important. On the other side of CompTIA, let's say you want to get into networking. I do still recommend you get that A+ because it is a good thing to have, but the Network Plus is great. You're not just going to learn about a single type of network like Fortinet or Palo Alto or all of those. You're going to learn holistically, what are the different types of networks out there? What are the different types of what's the OSI model? Like little things like that are really important to for any individual looking to break into the IT field to learn. CompTIA also has, they've got Server Plus, Security Plus, and the thing I like about CompTIA personally is it's not hard to figure out what certification you want. If you go out, the only one that doesn't really describe what it is the A+, and you can find out pretty quickly that that's as entry level as you're going to get. But you want to learn about Linux, there's a Linux Plus, there's a Server Plus, there's a Security Plus. They're all over the place. Now, if you're looking for a low cost alternative, because sometimes you don't have an employer that's going to pay, and if you're truly looking to change jobs or move from one career path to another and break into the IT field, like I said, the A+ is great. Google has also done a good job of producing, we'll call them working certifications. Google has a IT support technician cert. It's very low cost. It'll take you about a month, to learn. It gives you some of the soft skills needed, which A+ does as well, and it'll also give you some of your basic troubleshooting. And I want to say that's right around the $40 to $50 a month, where I can't recall what the A+ costs these days, but I think it's a little bit more than that. But yeah, there's a lot of different places, but if you stick with CompTIA as you're starting, you will. Oh, looks like my Google got mad at me. No, as long as if you're starting out, I would recommend CompTIA and then coming back around to potentially looking at those Google certs.
Fantastic. And I do hold some of those CompTIA certs. The A+ is given in two parts, and currently it is the 1001 and 1002. And they cost several $100s. So you're right.
Yeah.
Google is a cheaper alternative if you want to get started.
Yeah. Yeah, and worth mentioning, in no way would I say that Google is going to cover the amount of material that A+ is. So A+ would be your first option. But like I said, if you're just trying to break in and learn something, that's a great vehicle for that.
I believe it's also a little bit wider, like it's a little broader. Google's will cover a little bit of networking, if I'm not mistaken, and a little bit of the security stuff, but just a very small portion of it. Whereas starting with a A+, you get a really good foundation of everything, and then it just builds on top of that as you go to Network Plus and Security Plus and so on and so forth.
Speaking of networking, let's talk about what certs are valued. We said CompTIA has Net Plus. We have some that we are like specific to vendors. Let's talk about those.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said before, Net Plus, that's your foundation. But for the purposes of this webisode, there are hundreds of different certs out there in the networking world, and they're all valid. We focus on, we'll say, Cisco and Meraki. Meraki is a Cisco product, so it makes it a little bit easier, but those are kind of the industry standards for what we do and how we service our clients. we really like the CCNA routing and switching, or really anything out of Cisco, starting with the CCNA. Not only because of, to be quite frank, the difficulty of those certs. Those certs are not easy to get, and there is no way to, we'll say, fake your way through a Cisco cert. You have to know the materials. So we know that when somebody's taken that Cisco certification and passed it, they know that information. Meraki is another one. I think at this point, where we are in the the IT landscape, just about everybody's heard of Meraki. It's the cloud-based, we'll say small to medium sized businesses, but large businesses use it as well. But that's kind of becoming an industry standard as well. And getting that certification is has a lot of the same impact that Cisco certification has. Is there's no way to fake through that, and that material. Some little things, just kind of off script things. There are some other networking technologies out there that do offer certs, SonicWall, Fortinet, Palo Alto, they're all over the place. But for and what I always advise my people to look at is start with the big ones: Cisco, Meraki, and those types. Start there, and then you've got that foundation for the others that you want to look at, and it's not quite so specialized.
Yeah, I kind of agree there. On the networking side of that stuff, definitely that Net Plus, I believe, would be a good starting spot for anybody. It'll really give you those networking fundamentals that you will be completely lost if you try to walk into a CCNA or any of those other ones. VLANing, items like that, it's not super easy to just know that kind of stuff. So you really need to start kind of at square one if you have no networking background.
Sounds like there's a lot of room to go as far as the
Oh, yeah.
complicated, networking.
There's definitely steps into becoming a networking administrator, definitely.
Excellent. So on to some process and procedure. We've got some certifications that are very valued in the IT industry that aren't necessarily IT specific, like the PMP, which is one that I hold. We'll talk about that in a moment. We do have an IT cert called the ITIL, and Mark, you have that. Can you talk a little bit about that cert and who might want to do something like that?
Yeah. ITIL is what maybe we go back to process and procedure and kind of what is all of that and what's the purpose in in the MSP space, and really just if you're a technologist, and the importance. Process and procedure, and we'll say, we have said it a lot, provides a foundation. When you've got process and procedure in place, everybody is using the same vocabulary. Everybody understands the way to do things in accordance with whatever organization you're with. So that's where I put the importance on these process and procedure certifications. I got ITIL a few years back, and it really focuses on addressing terminology, methods, how to accomplish tasks. A big one that comes out of ITIL is change control. Change control is huge in the IT industry. Really, it should be huge everywhere. When you make a change that impacts not just you, if it impacts more than yourself, in a business environment, you do need some sort of check and balance to make sure that, if you're wanting to make this change, is this going to impact others? And nobody's going to do something, in spite of it impacting others. But the truth of the matter is the purpose for that change control is there's another individual in that room with you that may know something you don't. And that's critical. I can't tell you how many times, and we change control procedures, very strict change control procedures, not only for our clients and on their behalf, but internally. And I can't tell you how many times we've submitted a change control request saying we need to do this seemingly innocuous thing, and some smart guy in the room is going to be like, "Hey, you're going to break something like real bad, and it's going to cause problems." And then you've got 6 other individuals that are in that meeting that had no idea. But without that one person, slowing down to take in, whatever problem that we've submitted to the change management committee, we would make that change blindly with best intentions, but potentially cause real problems. And I strongly advise that for everyone. But yeah, ITIL does that. It also, the other piece of it is vocabulary, and we talked about that, but understanding what certain terms mean in the context that they're being spoken, that's huge. Just being able to speak the same language. You say change control 10 years ago and nobody knows what that is. And now, you hear that term change control and you know exactly what it is, exactly what it represents, and the importance it has to an industry.
I had to look this up. ITIL stands for Information Technology Infrastructure Library.
It's in the name.
Yep.
There you go. But yeah, absolutely. And there are other, and Rebecca, I know you're going to talk about PMP, but there are other process and procedure related certifications you can go out and get. ITIL is one of the industry standards. There's Agile. Rebecca, I know you know quite a few, so I'll stop talking and let you talk about PMP. but
That's
yeah.
great.
I mean, in real world there for what you're saying, Mark, when it comes to the ITIL and specifically the change management, in real world, that does have impact because when you're making changes in a production environment, that means money for the client and internal, because if systems go down, companies lose money. And so change management has really helped wrangle those we'll just make this change in the middle of the day and then suddenly, servers go offline for hours. And it really makes you slow down and make sure that you're not going to impede that. Let's be honest, money making is what most companies are built to do.
Yep.
So
losing money is what they don't want to do.
Exactly.
Right. It seems counterproductive a little bit. The other thing that ITIL and others do is key in on incident response. Like, what happens if something does go terribly? Is it everybody running around with their hair on fire, or is it measured? Is it something that the team is maybe not used to seeing, but they're prepared? It's a fire drill, when Log4j, I know we've all heard about that at some point in our lives in the last few months. When that out and there's an exploit, there may be nothing you can do to prevent that exploit, but you surely can protect your organizations against damage, and incident response helps do that. It's a documented way on how to handle things when they go terribly.
And it also helps with the follow-up after that too, to see where we can improve so that in the future we won't have these kind of issues. We'll be able to get to that spot quicker without any kind of downtime.
Yep, absolutely. Tell me about yours. Talk about the PMP, because that's one I've always actually wanted to get. I just haven't.
Yeah.
Happy to do that. So some of you might know a little bit about my background. I started out as a teacher and decided to change careers midstream and moved into IT. And I started with my CompTIA, the A+ is where I started. And I got my foot in the door at Iron Edge as a first responder and worked on the help desk. And through my time there, working with Mark and some of the other managers recognized that I had some organizational skills that would put me in a good position to do some project management. And so they suggested that I go on that track. Now, the Project Management Institute has several different certifications, and those are not specific to the IT industry, but definitely applicable, because what we do in professional services is we do projects for the clients at Iron Edge. And so what I did then is I started on the track toward this project management professional, or PMP, certification. I had to document experience working with teams on projects. I had to do additional studying and classwork outside of work, and had to go through an exam process to get that PMP designation. And that is something that's really grown to be something that I'm so grateful for, because I love the project management space. And that's something that my employer saw in me that I would not necessarily have seen in myself. So the bonus is I'm doing something that I love with my company. I'm getting additional compensation for having gotten that certification, which is a great thing, and I'm benefiting the team in working with projects. We talk a lot in PMP about change management as well. It's a huge aspect of what we do. So
Do you feel like that project management cert has helped you from a process procedural perspective and like how you accomplish your job?
a lot, because projects go through a life cycle, and it's important to understand that life cycle and how it applies in the IT space. So I've been able to take that knowledge from my PMP study and then translate it with the knowledge I have of IT and the experience working with the professional services team and put that into play.
For that one, I kind of feel like even if you kind of knew the project management, having that PMP as a cert behind you to kind of be kind of one of those, I know what I'm doing because this is the process for project management. So even if somebody has been in project management for a while, could still take this certification and have that kind of competency behind them where they're arguing with maybe a management about how a project should be run, and having that PMP behind them kind of gives them that edge forward with winning that argument and making sure that the project goes beginning to end the way it needs to be.
Well,
So
and that's what we were talking about before, right? It's
yeah,
foundational. It's
right.
foundational and it's validation.
Mhm.
Like
It gives you
these certs-
credibility, which I
Right.
think is what Jesse's trying to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It validates what you know. And to be perfectly honest, like the people that aren't experts in that vertical, they want they want guidance, because if they don't know that thing, you know, like it's going to be much easier for someone that does know. You know, I have a security director that is on my team, and I would never pretend to know what he knows, but he's credentialed in that field, you know, so I trust him and I rely on him to do things that are in line with our security best practices and what's in the market today. You know, without him, it would be a very, very difficult road to hoe.
Security is so important right
Mm.
now, more than ever, always has been.
Oh yeah.
So in the IT industry, knowing all of those hard skills about computers, networking, cloud, that's all important, but it's not the only important thing. If you want to have a successful career in IT, you have to have some other skills as well. Let's talk about some certifications that focus on customer service.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse, which ones did you have to take? I know which ones I had to take, and we'll kind of go through them.
I did the HDI training.
What
Which
does HDI stand for?
you're gonna put me on the spot. Let me look that up real quick.
I got you. It's Help Desk Institute.
Yeah, there you go. It actually has been a while since I've taken that. But it was something that I've before I was in the IT industry, I wasn't really in any kind of customer service specific type thing. You know, I did fast food and maybe a couple other things where I wasn't so customer facing. And honestly, when I got the job being in IT, I didn't think being customer service centric was what I needed. I'm an IT guy now, right? I'm sitting in a closet fixing computers, but turns out it's way more important than I thought it was at the beginning. And I struggled at the very beginning of being on a help desk because my language wasn't correct and my lingo wasn't correct, and being able to extract information that was relevant for the issue I'm trying to run was not an easy road for me. And it took me a while to figure that whole thing out. And it is different than being in person and being in IT, because you know, having a conversation is not quite the same as being on a phone call, being remote. And HCI really kind of opened my eyes to a couple things that took me years to figure out, just trial and error on the phone, you know, just being like this. And I took this certification as I believe as kind of a tester at the beginning of it. We purchased it to see how it would work for the rest of our customer service help desk people. And I learned a lot of stuff about it. One of the biggest things I learned from that HCI training was how to lower the aggravation level of the person on the phone across from me without getting in their face. right? Instead of, if your friend gets kind of upset at you, you kind of look at them and say,
De-escalation.
yeah, kind of calm down, but you can't really do that when you're in a customer service. You have to de-escalate in different ways so that it doesn't seem like you're pushing too hard against them, because pushing too hard against somebody who's irate, because let's be honest, in our industry, most people don't call us when they're having a great day with IT, right? Most of the time something's broken, and a lot of the times when something's broken on their computers, that's their whole job, and they can't do their job, and then they get upset. And the first person they take it out on is the guy who answers the phone on the other side of the IT help desk. And it's very important to be able to take somebody who's up here with their anger and kind of slowly bring them back down to where you're having a conversation. You're able to ask those specific questions to get to the root cause and resolve the issues for them. But it also goes over structuring your answering the phones in a specific kind of way every time, and also items like that. But I feel like the de-escalation is a big part of customer service that you don't really get, right? You don't get that kind of training in person. So when you're out there in the real world, it's hard to de-escalate those things without somebody kind of telling you how that process works and then how to get back to it.
Yeah, and I think that's an important distinction is, nobody, and let me be clear, that the customer service training isn't all how to avoid a fight. It is a very
Correct.
important piece
Correct.
of, because what Jesse touched on earlier is really a good point, and this is something we train internally here, is a user, and we say it kind of jokingly, our clients and our users, or anyone for that matter, is never going to call AT&T when their modem is working just fine. No, they're going to call AT&T. They're not even going to call AT&T when their modem is broken if it's not super important. When are they going to call AT&T? When their modem is down and they need access to internet right now. And every individual has a different way of approaching that. And what these and not just HDI, which I do recommend, but help desk habits is another good one. Look for internal training, on within your own organizations. A lot of time there are HR documents and things
Mhm.
like that you can apply. There's infinite amounts of resources. And then we had talked about the A+ having, it lightly covers the soft skills aspect of it. So does the Google cert, but these are all things that they give us measured lists, and we're all in the technical industry, so we like our checklists and we like our things that we can
And
go through, and it's going to give you those mechanisms to where you may be feeling some kind of way on the phone, getting yelled at by somebody who's like, I didn't even do anything.
mhm.
You rely on your list, you rely on your training, and allow those things to come through, so that both you and the other individual on the phone are no longer mad, and it's like, okay, now we're in a good place, we're in a positive place, we can help you, and we can get this issue addressed once and for all. And that's the other thing that kind of breeds a lot of that is, if you're speaking in different languages, and that's another thing that I think customer service specific training does, is it helps you to learn how to use analogies, how to use lingo and terms, to where you're not perceived, where the technical resources isn't perceived as sitting up here on his dais saying, technical jargon that we know for sure that this individual who works in accounting at, whatever
Mhm.
organization probably doesn't know, and is probably um, rightfully defensive, and it's like, and those are the things that I think customer service specific training helps with as well, is how do you communicate to
Yeah.
the person at the other desk in the office just as much as on the other end of the phone? What creative ways can you get your point across? Doctors do it all the time,
Yep.
and by no means am I saying that we are out there saving lives, but it is a very, very valuable skill set. I think I already talked about it, but the HDI is a good one, and Help Desk Habits is
Desk
also a really good
habits.
product that we like to use. And I've taken both, and I can tell you that I think that they do work in those
Mhm.
de-escalation and analogy-driven conversations. And the other thing, Rebecca, I know we're going off topic here a little bit, but a lot of the things that you brought from your past in positions you were in, from how to remote support, I know there were trainings that you went on how quickly to address an issue and when to escalate things, and little things like that.
Absolutely. We've all been on the other side. We've been the customer, and we've had someone give us exceedingly good customer service, and they make it easy, right?
Exactly.
So we think it's easy to give customer service, and it's really not.
No.
We've been on the side where someone is talking in the lingo that you don't understand. They're talking down to you, or they're condescending. That's not a positive experience. Nobody wants to be talked down to, whether it's a doctor or an IT pro talking to you. So having the knowledge of how to speak with a customer, how to empathize, that's so key to giving a
Buzzword.
good experience.
Empathize.
Yeah.
Yeah, the words I was thinking was trying to find common ground while on the phone with them too. Like somewhere where both of y'all can understand each other in a common language is really important for the getting through that technical jargon stuff, where you can still use the technical jargon. That's fine, but you need to be able to explain the technical jargon in words that the customer will understand and relate to, right? So nobody's here saying you need to make up new words. I mean,
Actually, I'm saying
word.
that. Make up new words. It'll be fun.
The technical words are the technical words, but it's a way of explaining it to the end user where, again, they don't feel like they're being talked down to. So getting on the same page as them with understanding is a key with customer service in any industry, not just IT, in anything.
That's what I was going to say too, is a lot of these customer service specific training, that it's not just good for talking to an individual on the phone. Like there are very real things that you can apply just in your day-to-day life. you know, like there are. So I mean, yeah, I can't speak highly enough of these as a supplement to all of the very important hardware and technical certifications.
Right.
Great points. Thank you. Okay, so let's say I've set a goal to get a new cert. Where do I go from there? How do I begin?
Good luck. No, I'll tell you this, it is really, really easy to find training materials online. It is also really, really easy to find bad training materials online. So you have to be careful. You want to do your research, and you want to stick to first vendor vetted and vendor approved training resources, right? You want to, if you're looking to get the Microsoft MS500, which is a good security cert to get, start with Microsoft. See what training Microsoft is recommending. And a lot of times they'll have like their books and stuff like that, and that's all great, but sometimes they'll have courses that are run by, oh goodness, now the name of the testing it starts with a P, but
Pluralsight.
there you go. Thank you very much, Jesse. Pluralsight is a really good one. It used to be called Train Signal. If you're looking for cheap A+ certification stuff that's been vetted and recommended by CompTIA in some cases, Professor Messer, I know, Rebecca, you're aware of that one as well.
Big fan. Yes.
Yeah, they're really approachable. Udemy, UDEMY, I believe, is also another training resource where it's relatively low cost and you get access to a lot of different materials. I do, and Jesse, I know you'll want to chime in on this as well, but I do recommend a multi-pronged approach to training. You're going to read your books, right? And that's going to happen. That's fine. Some people like to read books. Some people like to watch videos. That's great. Whichever works for you. But you're also going to want to do labs in some respect. Like understanding the information doesn't really take place until you've done it. And that's the important thing. And there are a lot of resources out there that will provide you labs if you or at the very least instructions on how to build your own. And then the other is practice exams. I want to be clear here, not talking about the infamous brain dumps. I'm talking about practice exams. Practice exams that are vetted by the vendors will let you know that where you stand, and the vendor that's creating that certification is also creating the practice test. And for me, I would much rather have that information that's been vetted by the people who are going to pass or fail me than anything else. but some things to stick to are going to be, is this a widely known training resource, right?
Oh,
Is it inexplicably cheap?
oh.
You know, little things like that.
Find out how long they've been around. That's a great
Absolutely.
one. Just go do a little, just Google, and you can easily find a BBB or one of those other types of organizations that verify that they're a valid, company, and they've been around for X amount of years, and things of that nature. Is a great place to start on that kind of stuff. The other thing that I would like to bring up on there, to add on to what Mark said, because everything he said was excellent.
Thank you.
I would like to add on there that there are options out there that if this is your first cert that you're getting through like Microsoft and stuff like that, there are places out there you can get a like a makeup exam where you get 2 exams for cheaper than you would have to pay for 2 separate exams to actually take them, where you get your first exam, they'll charge you about 150 bucks, and the second one's only about $75 instead of a whole another $150. Especially if it's your very first one you're ever doing, I would recommend getting the 2 exam package, because if you've never seen that industry's exams at all, you're going to want to get that second one just in case you don't pass it, and that way it's fresh in your brain, and then you buckle down and study some more, and then go back and try to get it while it's fresh. Don't be one of these people who wait too long afterwards to forget everything that you had from before. The key is to get back in there and try your cert again. And at the end of the day, the way I see it when it comes to this stuff is, if you do your training, you read your books, and you watch your videos, or you do both, and you take your practice exams, whether you pass the cert or not, which it is important when you want to get a resume, but the knowledge will be there. You'll be able to do the stuff that you've studied, whether or not you've passed those specific questions or not.
Show
And
of
that is
hands. Who here has failed a test?
multiple,
Yeah.
Yep,
and
I have.
I think that's an important thing, is like everybody, when you talk about that, Jesse, is everybody fails these tests.
Mhm.
They're designed to be hard.
Yeah, right.
Don't
Because
let
if
that
they're not,
discourage you.
right, because if they're not, then there's no backing behind it. If they're all easy, then they're not going to mean as much. And that's
Mhm.
what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a really good point, Jesse. Certifications, they've always got the 2 for deal. If you can
Mhm.
find it, get it. And if you pass in one go, awesome. You paid a little bit more for a cert.
Right.
That's okay. But if you don't, you're going to be really happy that you saved, $100 or a couple $100 on that second test. And then, yeah, to echo what Jesse said, which is a great point, go back, schedule yourself for the next week. Like, don't wait 2
Mhm.
months, don't wait a year. Like, schedule yourself for,
Yeah.
like, it's just like when you go to the doctor and they're like, all right, when's your next appointment? You're like, I don't know. And then you
Right.
never do it if you don't schedule it while you're there.
Yep.
Like, schedule it
Um,
immediately.
One of the things that I ran into early on in my certification, before I became an IT person, and I was just trying to find some certs, to kind of get my foot in the door, is verify the version of the test you're taking before you go out and buy resources for that, because I ran into that problem way back in the day. I tried to take my A+ exam, and I went and bought a book at the store, read the whole book, memorized it front to back, walked in, turns out they were on version 6, and I read a book from version 5, and a lot of the questions were changed. I know we spoke about how the industry changes a lot. So if you are taking that extra time before you want to take the test, and take a year or something to study for that first test, just to be sure, just be careful that you're not continuing to study old information, and that you
Mhm.
study the newest information that's going to be for the exact specific test that you're going to go take. Or you are
Really
going to walk
important.
out. Yeah, you're going to walk out and you're going to be disappointed and upset that you spent all the time working on it, and turns out the test wasn't about the same stuff you studied.
It's a really good point too. And Jesse, I know this happened to you more recently, where you had a test
Mhm.
with Microsoft that was valid, and
Mhm.
then by the time you were ready to take the
Yep.
test was gone.
Yep, it was the AZ 103. That was the standard administrative Azure stuff. And I studied for about 6 months on it. And about in the 5th month, I didn't notice, and somebody else brought it to my attention that the AZ 103 no longer existed. And now they're pushing the AZ 104. And there was some similarities, but it was enough of a difference where me trying to go take the AZ 104 off the AZ 103 stuff, just it wasn't going to work. It was enough different where no matter how many times I'd try the exam, it was never going to work. So
Yep. And really just to tie a bow on the training resources, verify your resources, ask people, what are they using?
yep,
You know,
that's a great one. Ask
look.
people who have done it already,
Mhm,
what they use to train.
mhm. And then, yeah, and just go to your vendor, go there first. You know, like they're the ones putting all the effort into building the test. They're probably the ones who are going to have the most up-to-date information on where to get the training.
Beautiful. Thank you for putting a bow on that.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, this has been a very valuable conversation with some very knowledgeable people. So thank you for your time, Mark and Jesse.
Sure.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Just to round things out, the benefits of certifications include building a solid foundation of knowledge and skills in your industry. It can increase your salary. You can find new career opportunities, put those certs on your resume, be a great thing. And by taking them, you're also building confidence. And by passing them, you're increasing your credibility. So take that into consideration. Think about what your next cert is going to be. And thank you for joining us today. Best wishes as you work toward your goals in 2022. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.